Hello and welcome back to lesson number 30, part 2. I assume you have all watched part 1 and that you now know how to identify a Swami Quad Loop and that you understand all its implications. Today we're going to learn about these other 5 remaining patterns: the offset quad loop, the Swami Quad snake, the split quad loop, the butterfly, and the sandwich. So let's get started with the offset quad loop. An offset quad loop is similar to a Swami Quad Loop, except that 1 or 2 of the 4 bi-value cells are offset. Let me show you what I mean. Here is a basic Swami Quad Loop. We have our AB, BC, CD, and DA configuration. And now let's color the candidates denoting the links that make up the loop. Let's start up here in the upper left on candidate 4 and call that our candidate A. So there's a strong link to the 7, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, and then finally weak back to the 4. So now we know that one of those 2 4s must be true, one of those 2 7s must be true, one of the 2 5s must be true, and one of those 2 9s must be true. And further, we also know that either all the yellow-colored candidates are true and all the blue ones are false, or vice versa. All the blue-colored candidates are true and all the yellow ones are false, because this is a continuous loop. And because these 4 cells are situated in 2 blocks, we know we can make candidate eliminations in these 6 houses like this. We know there can't be any other 4s in column 3, there can't be any other 5s in column 7, and there can't be any other 7s in row 1, and there can't be any other 9s in row 3. But because the yellow and the blue 4 lie entirely within block 1, we know there can't be any other 4s in the rest of that block either. So all these 4s would be false. Okay? And likewise, because the blue and the yellow 5 lie within block 3, there can't be any other 5s in block 3. So these 5s would be false. Okay, so you can make all those candidate eliminations in the red cells in those 6 houses. But now let's say one of these 4 cells is moved over like this. So now, because those 2 cells in block 3 do not lie in the same column anymore, there is no rectangle, and therefore this will not act as a normal Swami Quad Loop. The 4 cells do not lie in 2 rows and 2 columns anymore, which, as you know, is one of the requirements for a normal Swami Quad Loop. But we can still make the following candidate eliminations like this. The only difference is that you will lose the eliminations that would have been possible in column 7. So you can make eliminations in those 5 houses instead of 6. But this is still pretty good, right? And likewise, if 2 cells are moved like this, you would still get the same eliminations in the 2 rows and the 2 blocks, but now you would lose both the columns. It could look like this or like this. So now you would be able to eliminate candidates in only these 4 houses, the 2 rows and the 2 blocks. The rest of the 7s would be false in row 1, the rest of the 9s would be false in row 3, and the rest of the 4s would be false in block 1, and the rest of the 5s would be false in block 3. But remember, with an offset quad loop, the 4 cells must lie in the same chute, either vertical or horizontal, or else it will not act as a loop. Like if this cell with the 4 and the 9 were down here, this would no longer be a loop. This is actually a Swami Quad snake that we will cover in a moment. The 4 cells of an offset quad loop can be in 2 blocks, like you see here, or they can be in a single block, like this. And here you would get eliminations in 4 houses: row 4, row 6, column 4, and block 5, like this. Remember, those 4 green cells in block 5 act as a naked quad, so you can eliminate 4, 5, 7, and 9 from all those red cells in block 5. And of course, an offset quad loop can also lie in a vertical chute like this. And then you would get these eliminations. The rest of the 2's would be false in column 1, and the rest of the 5's would be false in column 3, and the rest of the 1's would be false in block 1, and the rest of the 6's would be false in row 7 and in block 7. Now, those of you who have watched all my previous videos know that I always try to show as many possible variations of a particular pattern as I can, including even some of the very rare positions, to prepare you for anything that might come up in any random puzzle. But there are so many possibilities for the patterns in this video that it would take several hours to demonstrate every single one of them. So I am going to show you the basics along with a few variations, and then you will have to be creative and use your imagination to apply all these techniques to actual puzzles, okay? Once you understand the logic behind them and how they work, it shouldn't be too difficult. You can do it. I have faith in you. All right, that's how an offset quad loop works. So now let's move on to the Swami Quad Snake. A Swami Quad Snake has 4 bi-value cells with 4 candidates arranged in the AB, BC, CD, DA configuration. But this time the 4 cells are linked, but they do not form a continuous loop. They simply form an XY chain. This means that we can only make deductions about the 2 candidate A's, which will always be the 2 endpoints of the chain. Here we have a Swami Quad Snake. We've got AB, BC, CD, and DA. 4 bi-value cells and 4 candidates. Now don't get confused. You may say, wait a minute, there are 8 candidates in those 4 cells. And you're right, there are 8 individual instances of candidates in those 4 cells, but there are only 4 different candidates involved. The A, B, C, and D, which in this case are the 1, 3, 7, and 9. So that's what I mean when I say 4 candidates. It's a little ambiguous, I agree, but I think you know what I mean. As you can see, this does not form a loop because the AB cell and the DA cell do not see each other, which further means they cannot be linked. But the 4 cells can be linked like this. Let's start up here in the upper left on candidate 1, and then we'll go strong to the 3, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, and finally strong. This is an XY chain, and since the 2 1's are the endpoints of the chain, we know that at least one of them must be true. And I say at least because in some cases, both endpoints of an open-ended AIC can be true. This is kind of rare, but it does happen. However, it can only happen if the 2 endpoints do not see each other. Because if they see each other, then of course they cannot both be true. Only one can be true. But no matter what, if the first one is false, then the last one must be true. And if the last one is false, then the first one must be true. We know this because of the logical inferences of the chain. Since we know that at least one of those 2 endpoints must be true, we can safely eliminate any other candidate 1's that can see both of them. And here in this diagram, there are only 2 cells that can see the 2 candidate A's. And they are here and here. So a candidate 1 in either one of those red cells would have to be false. And don't forget, in a Swami Quad Snake, the endpoints will always be the 2 candidate A's. Now there is nothing earth-shattering about this. It is just a regular XY chain. But the idea here is that it will be a lot easier to identify if you can train yourself to notice whenever you happen to see 4 bi-value cells containing 4 different candidates with an AB, BC, CD, and DA configuration. And then you can try to link them up if possible. Capiche? Believe me, once you know how this works and once you are actually looking for them and know how to recognize them, you will start to see a lot of them. Now, if you just focus on those 4 green cells, this one kind of resembles the shape of a turbo fish. See what I mean? All right, let's go to the next one. And here in this diagram, we have AB, BC, CD, and DA. Now this one looks kind of like a skyscraper. And don't forget, you can start on either end of this chain, but no matter where you start, the two candidate A's are going to be the two endpoints. All right, so here's the chain. This time our candidate A is 5. So we're going to start here and go strong to the 2, then weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, and finally strong to that 5. And the two 5s are the two endpoints. So any candidate 5 that can see both of those endpoints must be false, and in this diagram there are 6 places where that can happen. Here, here, and also here, here, and here. Those 6 red cells can see both of those candidate 5s. And so that means a candidate 5 in any one of those 6 cells would have to be false. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, so here we've got AB, BC, CD, and DA. And this one actually looks like a snake, kind of like a cobra slithering along to the right with its head sticking up here in block 6. This is why I use the name snake for these things, because they snake all around the puzzle in many different ways with no particular shape. So I don't think we need to draw the chains anymore. You can see that the two candidate A's are the two endpoints, and in this case, candidate A is 1. So those 2 cells containing the 1s are the endpoints of the chain, and this time there are 5 cells where we can make candidate eliminations. These 5 cells can see both of those candidate 1s. And notice there can't be a 1 in this cell because then it wouldn't be a bi-value cell and there would be no XY chain. So a candidate 1 in any one of those red cells would be false. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, here we have 4 bi-value cells and 4 candidates, AB, BC, CD, and DA. But none of these cells can see each other, which means they cannot be linked. So you can't do anything with this. The 4 cells must link up to form an XY chain or you've got nothing. Understood? Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, this time we've got AB, BC, CD, and DA. And this one kind of zigzags its way down the middle vertical chute. You see? So the two 7s are the two candidate A's, and so any other 7 that can see both of them must be false. And once again, in this diagram, there are 6 places where that can happen. Here, here, and also here, here, and here. Those 6 cells can see both candidate 7s, which are the endpoints of the chain, and so if there were a 7 in any one of those red cells, they would all be false. All right, let's do one more. Okay, so here we have AB, BC, CD, and DA. And this one kind of looks like a 2-string kite, you see? And so candidate 2 is candidate A, and you could start on either one of those and make your XY chain. But we know that one of those must be true because they are the endpoints of the chain. So any other candidate 2 that can see both of those 2's must be false. And in this diagram, there are only 2 places where that can happen. And those 2 places are here and here. If there were a 2 in either one of those cells, they would be false. All right, so that's the Swami Quad snake. Got it? Great. So now let's move on to the last 3 patterns. As I mentioned in the opening of part 1, the 6 patterns we are covering here fall into 2 groups of 3 patterns each. The first 3, the Swami Quad Loop, the Offset Quad Loop, and the Swami Quad Snake, each have 4 bi-value cells containing 4 different candidates, A, B, C, and D, arranged in a very particular way. The next 3 patterns, the Split Quad Loop, the Butterfly, and the Sandwich, are all composed of 4 bi-value cells, just like the first 3. But in each of these patterns, there will only be 3 different candidates appearing in the 4 cells, candidates A, B, and C. The 4 cells in the Split Quad Loop and the Butterfly will consist of 2 sets of naked pairs, AB, AB, and AC, AC. The Sandwich is a little different, having only 1 naked pair of AB, AB, and the AC, AC set will be broken up and situated with 1 cell on each side of the naked pair, creating what resembles a sandwich. But in all three patterns, the four by-value cells will all share a common candidate, and that will always be our candidate A, okay? All right, let's see what these things look like. So next up, we have the split quad loop. I wanted to call this the semi-quad loop, but semi sounded too much like Swami, so I decided to use the term split instead. It's just as good. Let's examine these four cells. We have two sets of naked pairs, and both sets contain the common candidate 3. All four cells contain a 3. And further, the two sets are situated in exactly 2 rows and 2 columns, and thus they form a rectangle just like a Swami Quad Loop. Let's call the 3 candidate A, the 7 candidate B, and the 9 candidate C. So in row 1 we have AB, AB, and in row 6 we have AC, AC. So of course, because of the naked pairs, we know that we can eliminate all 3s and 7s from the rest of row 1, and we can eliminate all 3s and 9s from the rest of row 6, right? But as soon as you do that, you are now left with an X-wing on 3 because there will only be 2 3s left in row 1, and there will only be 2 3s left in row 6, and in each of those rows, they both lie in columns 4 and 7. So now we can eliminate the rest of the 3s from both those columns because they become the cover sets in the fish pattern, i.e. the X-wing. This is called a split quad loop. It is split because the 4 cells are split into 2 pairs, and it is a loop because there is a continuous loop on those 3s. There is a strong link between the 2 3s in row 1, and there is a strong link between the 2 3s in row 6. And then there are weak links between the 2 3s in each column. So this forms a continuous loop, and we know that in a continuous loop, the weak links become strong links. So that means all the other 3s in those 2 columns would have to be false. And another way to see this is as 2 XY chains, like this, with the 2 endpoints on the 3s in column 4, or like this, with the 2 endpoints being the 2 3s in column 7. And no matter which method you choose to envision this, as an X-wing, 2 XY chains, a continuous loop, or a split quad loop, the end result will be exactly the same. One diagonal set of those 4 cells must eventually be solved for candidate A, like this, or like this. That's the only way it can be, which allows you to make all these candidate eliminations. A candidate 3 in any one of those red cells would have to be false. But no conclusions can be drawn about candidates B or C. And of course, this will work the same way if the 2 sets of naked pairs lie in 2 columns, like this. Here we have 2 sets of naked pairs that are situated in exactly 2 rows and 2 columns, and this time they line up to form a perfect square. Just like a Swami Quad Loop, a split quad loop can be in the form of a rectangle or a perfect square. Let's call the 6 candidate A, the 2 candidate B, and the 4 candidate C. So in column 2 we have AB, AB, and in column 5 we have AC, AC. And as you can see, there is a 6 in all 4 of those cells. 6 is the common candidate, which means it is our candidate A. So after you eliminate the rest of the 2s and 6s from column 2 and the rest of the 4s and 6s from column 5, you are left with an X-wing on candidate 6, which means you can also eliminate all other instances of candidate 6 from both row 1 and row 4, like this. A candidate 6 in any one of those red cells would have to be false. So when you see 2 sets of naked pairs lined up like this, and all 4 cells contain a common candidate, you immediately know that you also have an X-wing without even thinking about it or having to search for it. That's the beauty of this pattern. Now the 4 cells of a split quad loop can lie in 4 blocks like this, and then after the naked pairs, you would have these candidate eliminations. A 5 in any one of those red cells would be false. Or they can lie in 2 blocks like this. And then after taking care of the naked pairs, you would have these eliminations. A candidate 2 in any one of those red cells would have to be false. But the 4 cells cannot lie entirely within 1 block like this. This situation would be impossible because it would lead to an empty cell. One of those 2 7s in row 4 would have to be true because of that naked pair, and one of the 2 7s in row 6 would have to be true because of that naked pair, and there can't be 2 7s in block 5, so that just can't be. And there is one more variation I would like to point out before we move on. It should be obvious, but here it is. If the 2 sets of naked pairs are locked, meaning they lie in either a row and a block or a column and a block, then you can make the eliminations from those naked pairs in the blocks too. And then you would still have the X-wing on candidate A, like this. The naked pair of 5 and 8 lies in row 1 and in block 3, and the naked pair of 8 and 2 lies in row 4 and block 6. So just from the naked pairs, you could make all these eliminations. You could eliminate all those 5s and 8s from the rest of row 1 and the rest of block 3, and you could eliminate all those 8s and 2s from the rest of row 4 and the rest of block 6. And then you would also have the eliminations from the X-wing on candidate 8 like this. Got it? So when you see 2 sets of naked pairs, AB, AB, and AC, AC, that occupy exactly 2 rows and 2 columns, and they line up to form a rectangle or a perfect square, and all 4 cells share a common candidate, then in addition to the naked pairs, you should immediately recognize that you also have an X-wing on candidate A. So here in this diagram, that would be candidate 9, and so you could eliminate the rest of the candidate 9s from row 4 and row 7. All right, I think that's pretty straightforward, so let's move on to the butterfly. Now here again we have 4 by-value cells containing 3 candidates, A, B, and C, arranged in 2 sets of naked pairs, AB, AB, and AC, AC. And again, they all share a common candidate, which of course is our candidate A. So the 5 is candidate A, the 1 is candidate B, and the 3 is candidate C. And here in row 1 we have AB, AB, and in column 6 we have AC, AC, okay? The conditions for a butterfly pattern are that 2 sets of naked pairs can be anywhere in the puzzle in a row, column, or block as long as one of the AB cells can see one of the AC cells and can therefore be linked to each other via a weak link on candidate A. This simply means that one of the AB cells and one of the AC cells must lie in the same house, and then the endpoints of the XY chain will be located in the other 2 cells. And as you can see, in block 2, we have an AB cell and an AC cell that can see each other, so we're all set. Whenever you notice something like this, without wasting time drawing it all out, you should immediately know that this is a 4-cell XY chain and that the 2 candidate A's on the opposite and extreme ends of the chain are the 2 endpoints. So any other candidate A that can see both of them must be false. This is what constitutes a butterfly pattern. Now for this first one, I'll draw the chain for proof, and then after that, I hope you can simply visualize it. Now remember, you can start on either end of this chain and it will still work, but let's start up here in row 1, column 1 on the 5 and go strong to the 1, then weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, and finally strong to that other 5. So that's the chain, but really all you need to see are the 2 naked pairs and the AB-AC link, and then you should instantly know that one of the 2 endpoint candidate A's has to be true without having to draw or even imagine the chain. Think of the 2 naked pairs as the 2 wings of a butterfly attached in the middle, and the endpoints will always be on the tips of the wings. Capiche? So here in this diagram, there are two cells that can see both of those endpoints, and they are here and here. But in this cell, up here in row 1, column 6, we already knew there cannot be a 5 in that cell because of the two sets of naked pairs. So the only additional elimination we get because of the butterfly pattern is this cell down here in row 6, column 1. If there were a 5 in that red cell, it would be false. Many times with a butterfly, there will only be one possible candidate elimination, but there can be several more, as you will see in a minute. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, here we have another butterfly pattern. We've got a naked pair in block 1 and another naked pair in column 7. Those are the two wings. 4 by-value cells, 3 candidates, and all 4 cells contain a common candidate. Up here we've got AB, AB, and over here we've got AC, AC. And one of the AB cells and one of the AC cells are both in row 1, which means they can see each other and can therefore be linked to create an XY chain. So the 7 is candidate A, and this means any other candidate 7 that can see the two extreme endpoints of the chain or the two tips of the butterfly's wings will be false. The two endpoints are marked in blue and yellow. And so once again, there are two cells that can see both the endpoints. And they are here and here. And once again, we knew there could not be a 7 in this cell in row 3, column 7 because of the naked pair in column 7. So the only additional cell where we could eliminate a 7 by virtue of the butterfly pattern would be right here in row 5, column 1. If there were a candidate 7 in that cell, it would be false. Okay, next one. As you can see here, these butterfly patterns are not always going to be perfectly symmetrical, but the concept is the same. If all the conditions are met, it's going to work. We've got AB, AB, and AC, AC, and our two connecting cells lie in row 7. So 9 is our candidate A, and here are the two endpoints of the XY chain. So if there were a candidate 9 in this cell, it would be false. Now this cell can also see both endpoints, but we already knew that there could not be a 9 there because of the naked pair in column 1. All right, next. Here is our AB-AB set, and here is our AC-AC set. And candidate A is the 6 because it appears in all 4 cells. Remember that in a butterfly, when we connect one of the AB cells to one of the AC cells, the endpoints of the chain will always be in the other 2 cells, i.e. in the 2 outermost cells, and they will always be the 2 candidate A's. So if there were a candidate 6 in this cell, it would be false. And we already knew there could not be a 6 in this cell because of the naked pair in row 6. All right, next one. Now here in this diagram, not only do the 4 cells lie in the same chute, but they also lie in the same 2 rows. So this allows for additional cells where candidate eliminations can possibly be made. The 3 is candidate A. You can see this one 2 different ways because each AB cell can see an AC cell. So you can think of this as a butterfly with the connecting cells in row 4 and the 2 endpoint cells in row 6, like this. Or you can see it as a butterfly with the connecting cells in row 6 and the 2 endpoint cells in row 4, like this. So this is kind of like an offset quad loop, except that there are only 3 candidates instead of 4. But it still works like a loop or like 2 XY chains. Now we already know that all the other 3's in both those blocks are false because of the naked pairs. But because of the butterfly pattern, we have 6 cells where possible eliminations can occur. We know that one of the 2 3's in row 4 must be true, and one of the 2 3's in row 6 must be true. So if there were a 3 in any one of these 6 cells, they would be false. Does everybody understand that? Okay, great. So now let's move on to the 6th and final pattern of the group, the sandwich. The sandwich is like a butterfly turned inside out. What we're looking for this time is a naked pair of AB, AB that sits in the middle of the pattern, with an AC cell on either side of it. There will still be a candidate A in all 4 cells, but this time the candidate A's job is only to help create and link up the XY chain, and it will be the 2 candidate C's that will be the endpoints. Because the AC-AC set is broken up and is not a naked pair, this is the only way it can work out. You'll see what I mean in just a second when we try to draw the chain. So here we've got 4 bi-value cells containing 3 candidates, A, B, and C. The 3 appears in all 4 of these cells, so that's our candidate A, which means candidate B is 8. So up here in row 1, we've got our AB naked pair. So candidate C is 7, and we've got one AC cell in block 1 that can see one of the AB cells, and we've got another AC cell down here in column 6 that can see the other AB cell. The 2 AC cells sandwich the naked pair. They are like 2 slices of bread, and the AB naked pair is like the peanut butter and jelly in between. So now if we try to start on candidate A like we do with the butterfly and we go strong to the 7, then there's nowhere to go. There's no other 7 to connect that cell to, so we can't start on the A. But if we start on candidate C, we can go strong to the 3, then weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, and finally strong to the 7. So there's your XY chain, and the 2 candidate C's, here being the 2 7s, are the endpoints. And there are 2 cells that can see both of those endpoints, and they are here and here. So if there were a candidate 7 in either one of those cells, they would be false. Remember that with a butterfly, when the endpoints are arranged like this, we only get one possible candidate elimination because the other cell will be in the same house as one of the naked pairs, so the elimination will have already been made. But this does not apply to the sandwich. Here we get both. So the conditions for a sandwich pattern are that you start with a naked pair of AB, and then you need 2 other cells, AC and AC, such that one of the AB cells of the naked pair can see one of the AC cells, and the other AB cell can see the other AC cell. And once you have that, you can eliminate any other candidate C that can see both the AC cells. All right, let's take a look at a few more examples. Now here in this diagram, candidate 6 appears in all 4 of those cells. So that's our candidate A. And then here in column 2, we've got our AB naked pair. So that makes the 9 our candidate C, and we've got an AC cell here and an AC cell there. And one of the AB cells can see an AC cell up here in block 1, and the other AB cell can see this AC cell down here in row 5. So that's our setup, and that makes the 2 9s the endpoints of our chain, here and here. So any other candidate 9 that can see both of those 9s will be false, and we've got 2 places for that to happen. We've got one here and one here. If there were a 9 in either one of those red cells, they would be false. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, this time we've got our naked pair up here in block 3, and there it is, 5 and 8, 5 and 8. The 5 appears in all 4 cells, so that's candidate A, and the 8 is candidate B. So that makes the 1 our candidate C, and there's our AC and AC cells, and they can each see one of the AB cells. So the 2 candidate 1s are the candidate C's, and they are the endpoints of our chain, here and here. So there are 2 cells that can see those 2 1s, and they are here, and if there were a candidate 1 in either one of those cells, they would be false. All right, next one. Now here in this diagram, because the endpoints lie in the same chute, there will be 6 possible eliminations. With a sandwich pattern, you will generally get either 2 or 6 cells where eliminations are possible. So candidate 9 appears in all 4 of these cells, which makes it our candidate A. And here is our AB naked pair. That's the peanut butter and jelly. So that makes candidate 2 our candidate C, and we've got an AC cell up here in block 1 and another AC cell down here in block 7. They are the 2 slices of bread in our sandwich. And each one of those AB cells can see one of the AC cells. So the two endpoints are those candidate 2s, and we've got one here and one down here. And this time there are 6 cells that can see both of those candidate 2s, and they are here, here, and also here, here, and here. So if there were a 2 in any one of those 6 cells, they would be false. Okay? Now remember, in a Swami sandwich, the 2 AC cells will not see each other. Because if they did, they would form a naked pair, which would result in either a butterfly or a split quad loop, and it would not be a sandwich. Let me show you what I mean. All right, let's say we have something that looks like this. We've got 4 bi-value cells, and there's a candidate 9 in all 4 cells. So that would be candidate A. So let's start by calling the 3-9, 3-9 pair in block 1 our AB set. So now these 2 cells look like an AC and an AC cell, right? But if the endpoints are those candidate 7s, the only eliminations we could make would be within block 2, and as you can see, there's a naked pair of 7 and 9 in block 2, so all those eliminations would have already been made. And now if we do it the other way around and call this our AB set and call this our AC set, it's the same thing. Those 2 3s would now be the candidate C and would be the endpoints of our chain, and they would already have been eliminated from block 1 because of the 3-9, 3-9 naked pair. But instead, if we look at this as a butterfly pattern, you would be able to eliminate all the 3s and 9s from block 1, all the 7s and 9s from block 2, and then you would be able to eliminate the candidate 9s from these 6 cells. If there were a 9 in any one of those cells, they would be false because that's our candidate A. Now, if this seems a little bit confusing to you, just go back to 28 minutes and 30 seconds in this video, and you will see an example just like this. And likewise, here in this diagram, we've got 4 bi-value cells, and there's a 7 in each cell. So that makes 7 our candidate A, and if we called this our AB set, this could look like an AC and an AC. But because those 2 AC cells see each other, they form a naked pair, and you would have already eliminated all the candidate 1s, which would be candidate C, from column 6 because of that naked pair of 1 and 7. So this doesn't get you anything extra. This is really a split quad loop that we learned about earlier in this video. So you could eliminate all the 7s and 6s from column 2 and all the 7s and 1s from column 6, and then you would be left with an X-wing on candidate 7, so you could eliminate 7s in all of these cells. Okay? So when the 2 endpoints lie in the same house and become a naked pair, this is no longer a sandwich pattern. All right, let's do one more sandwich, and then we'll wrap it up for today. All right, so here in this diagram, our AB naked pair is in row 5, 3, 6, 3, 6. There's a candidate 6 in all 4 cells, so that's our candidate A, which means candidate C is candidate 9. So that means any candidate 9 that can see both of those endpoint 9s must be false, and in this diagram there are 6 places that can happen. And they are here, 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 and here, here, and here. Those 6 cells can see both of those endpoints, therefore a candidate 9 in any one of those 6 cells would be false. Got it? Great. And that, my friends, is how a Swami sandwich works. If you like these tutorials, please click on the big red subscribe button and click on the little bell icon if you would like to be notified of new videos as soon as they are uploaded, okay? Thanks very much. I know this was a really long one today, so thanks for hanging in there with me. But if you memorize all the patterns in this lesson, as well as the Swami Quad Loop in part 1, it will definitely help you find all those chains a lot faster than you would by just randomly searching for them. All right, that's going to do it for today, so let's go back outside and finish up. Thanks for watching. Well, I hope you can make good use of these 6 patterns. They come up quite a lot, and by being able to recognize all their easily identifiable characteristics and taking full advantage of their power will definitely speed up your overall solving time. In the next 2 videos, number 31 and 32, We are going to learn how to construct wide networks of conjugate pairs that will allow us to make lots of candidate eliminations and sometimes even digit placements. We do this by using two colors to denote the two polar opposites in each conjugate pair. And thus, this technique is generally known as simple coloring. And I will look forward to seeing you for those two lessons. In the meantime, be well and be happy.